many of you like this nice wet weather that we have had today? Do you know, I love days like this. I had to learn to love days like this because I was brought up in Glasgow and it rains like this every day. Although I used to be bloody miserable. But even more than that, it was because I've got this beautiful memory when I was preschool. I'm the youngest of 6. With Mum and Dad, 8 of us lived in a 2-bedroomed apartment. It was a tenement. You call it apartment. She couldn't wait to get the kids out to school and Dad off to work. And she used to close the door after she said goodbye, and they'd all had their porridge and cod's liver oil. And she'd put her back against the door and she'd go, "Ugh." And then she'd wink at me. The youngest is spoiled, by the way. Anybody that's the youngest that says they're not spoiled, they're telling lies. Mum had this great routine. So there would be a day that we'd have to go and get the tartan trolley and go for shopping. There would be a day where she would do the ironing. There would be a day where she would clean all the bathroom. And so she just had this routine. But my favourite day was the day that she did the laundry and it was raining outside. Because she used to say to me, "You're not allowed to go out and play, it's too wet. And the laundry's not allowed to go out because it's too wet." So I got to stay at home and play with the laundry. Now that might sound ridiculous, but it was my most favourite thing to do. Because what Mum would do, especially with the sheets, and some of you might remember this, she would put out chairs, wash the sheets. She didn't have a washing machine or a tumble dryer. And then we would squeeze out the sheets and she'd hang them over the chairs from one side to the other. And you know what that was for me? That became a tent. That was where I would spend hours. And I would go in my tent and I would have this imaginary world. Sometimes I was on the moon, sometimes I was at a beach, sometimes I was having high tea with the Queen. And I used to spend hours. I look back now and I think, God, she was really clever because she used to think, I'll get her in that tent and then I'll have peace and quiet. But the power of imagination, that was my happy place. I used to really look forward to those days. And then fast forward about 10 years when I was going through teens, my imagination started to be a bit negative. I started to realise that I was thinking about, oh, does my bum look too big in this? Or, you know, my hair's not as nice as the other girls in the class, or I don't dance as good as them, or if that exam's coming up, there's no way I'll pass that exam, I don't know if I'm clever enough. And so my imagination was creating all these negative stories. So I took a real interest in understanding how the mind works. And I started to research stuff, and Christine mentioned earlier NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. The neuro is our thoughts, the linguistic is the language that we use, and the programming is our behaviour that is as a result of your thoughts. And language can be self-talk or how you communicate with others, and the behaviour is an outcome. And what I realised was I'd started to get into a way, if the thought was negative, that thought would create a picture, there's the imagination, that would create a feeling, and usually if it was a negative thought, it would be a negative feeling, and so then I would have a negative reaction to whatever was going on around me. And through NLP, I learned that I could turn it around, and if I had a positive thought, I could create a positive emotion and choose to react, or choose to act instead of just emotionally react. The brain is such a powerful tool. Apparently we only use about 7% of it. But human beings, the possibilities for us are huge. And we all know what the brain is. We know it's an organ. And we know that we can slice it open and look in it, and we can know how it functions with the body. But what is the mind? There's a question. And the mind is divided into two. We have the conscious mind, which is, I'm very aware I'm up here doing things now. And then we have the unconscious mind, which is when we're kind of on automatic pilot. And the unconscious mind runs our body. So right now, your unconscious mind is beating your heart around your body, pumping your heart, pumping the blood. It's breathing, helping you breathe. I hope you're all breathing. But we're so unaware of it. And what I realised was that my imagination was being ruled, my life was being ruled by the unconscious mind. And we mustn't be fooled, because when it's called unconscious or subconscious, we think it's less than, but it's actually not. Because we're so unaware, it's so powerful. And if we aren't aware and we don't take control of our thoughts, then we're not in control of the outcomes. We repeat the same old patterns again and again and again. And so my learning along the way became unlearning. Unlearning the negative things that I had picked up through my teens. In my 20s, I worked with sales teams, and part of that was helping them to achieve targets. And what I found really amazing was it was always the same people at the top of the leaderboard. It was always the same people, no matter what the product, that would win the award. And so I used to say to them, what is it that drives you? And they said, what do you mean, what drives me? And how come you're always the one? And they said, I just picture it. So again, using the imagination, I see myself on the top of the leaderboard. I see myself receiving the applause because I'm the top salesperson. I see myself winning. And that power is something that we forget. And I'd like to invite you today to go back to that childhood imagination that you had. Find your tent and find somewhere that allows you to be creative and free again. Because we can become very caught up in emotion. And we are ruled by how we feel. I feel like buying that dress, even though I can't afford it, I'm going to get it. Oh, I feel really tired, I'm going to have a bottle of wine, I'm going to drink it even though it's not good for me. Oh, I don't feel like going tonight. And so we give in all the time to our feelings. And so what I say to people, and I do for myself, I've learned over the years, is to become a robot. Do you like that idea? Most of us don't. But what do robots do? Robots do what they're programmed to do. A robot doesn't say, I know I should go and do this, but I'm not feeling like doing it today. A robot doesn't say, I've had enough. So get into that robotic move. And there's one beautiful story that I would like to finish with. An aunt of mine was very sick and in hospital. And she was lying on her back, she couldn't sit up. And she shared the room with another woman, and the other woman's bed was by the window. And every day this aunt would say to the woman, tell me what you see outside because I'm bored. And the woman would say to her, whatever she could see. So she'd say, oh, there's a couple walking by arm in arm and they look in love. There's leaves falling and the kids are running through the leaves, and the sun's up, the sun's got golden glow, it's a beautiful day outside. And she would just share, and every day, and this went on for days and days and weeks and weeks. Anyway, one morning the nurse came in to give them both a glass of water, and this woman by the window had passed away. A man was really upset because she'd gotten to know her and like her and appreciated the visions that she shared with her every day. So when she felt it was appropriate, she said to the nurse, would it be okay to move my bed next to the window, because she was getting better and could sit up now. And the nurse said, yes, sure, no problem. So they pushed my aunt's bed over to the window, and she sat up and she was so excited to see outside, and she looked out through the window and it was a concrete wall.